This is the Bleav in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network.
It did. Joe Cox with an up and out. Wide open. Touchdown. Israel 2.
Snap to Young. Drops back. Pressure from the edges. He throws near sideline. And it's intercepted. Intercepted. Keely Ringo at the 21. Off he goes. 40, 50, 45, 40, 35, 30. Near sideline. Breaks the tackle. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown. 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 Georgia.
Good evening, neighborhood. How about them dogs?
32, 18. Let the celebration begin.
Celebration indeed. Welcome in. We're back. Football's back. Bleav in Georgia Dawgs is back. And joining me, the host of the Bleav in Vanderbilt podcast, the Bleav in Badgers podcast. He joins forces with me on Illegal Motion. He is hopefully getting a $100 million contract from Yahoo here pretty soon as he joins forces with Clint Cosgrove with the Badger Blitz Report.
Badger Blitz TV and
Badger Blitz TV, yes.
And don't forget editor-in-chief at MikeFarrellSports.com.
Editor-in-chief at MikeFarrellSports.com. He is a weight loss champion. He is a master of all things culinary and woodworking, and the master of all the Adobe products. It's my man, Matthew Perkins. What's up, dude?
You are far too kind this evening, sir. It is great to be on here, as always, with you, my friend.
Absolutely, and I have to add fantasy football champion as well. So, what's up? What's up, man? How's it going?
It's good, man. I'm excited. It's 30 days from, football really being back. I mean, I've been getting ready over there at MikeFarrellSports.com. We've had a ton of articles coming out lately, just really getting primed for the season, man. Like, camps are here. There are position battles heating up. Vanderbilt will inevitably let everyone down, even those with the lowest of expectations like myself. So that's okay. I spent the extra $50 per seat on my season tickets this year to make sure I got the extra cushy seat with the seat back, because I'm not going to be standing to celebrate a lot of touchdowns.
That's right. So, and we'll get to the reasons why here later on down the show. But as you said, a lot of position battles happening, a lot of camp news afoot. Day one of practice for them Georgia Dawgs, the defending national champions. The main storylines. From your perspective, what do you see as the potential storylines? I mean, you look at the defense, who's going to step up, the wide receiver position. What is it going to look like exactly? We know who some of the playmakers are, but how do they fit? Of course, you have the tight end room, and you can go 5 personnel with just all tight ends. I'm sure Brock Bowers could probably play running back, maybe even quarterback. And then the offensive line, which we'll get to later on down in the show. We'll talk about offensive lines and where Georgia stacks up against the rest of the conference or even the rest of the country, because you are a Badger, and that's what Badgers are known for. So let's start with defense. What stands out to you on Georgia's defense? I know you've been doing some stuff for MikeFarrellSports.com. I know you've been looking at defenses, offensive lines, different units. The biggest unit, literally and figuratively, is the defensive line. How do you replace Jordan Davis?
I mean, physically, I don't think you do, because there isn't another human being like him on the face of the planet, right? But that's not what I think you're trying to do now. You're going to have a different philosophy. Dan Lanning's gone. The sort of the core structure is going to be there, right? The same basic premise is going to be there, but there's going to be a lot of new wrinkles. And so I think what you're going to see is Jalen Carter just being featured left and right, and he is going to be the focal point of the defense, because at this point, he's probably the most unblockable player on the interior of the defensive line in the country. For my money, that's who I would put it on. I can't think of anyone else who's up there with him. And so he's a very different player than Jordan Davis, right? He brings a very different skill set. Not to say that he's, they just bring different things to the table, right? he's going to be able to get into the backfield a little bit more, but he also, he sheds blockers really well. And he's another guy that will be a top 10 player in the draft the following year. But I'm more interested for me is who's the secondary edge rusher after Nolan Smith. That is what I would really sort of want to see. And what sort of rotation does it look like on the edge for the Dawgs?
Well, I mean, I think you get Bradley Beal in there. I think he's probably your secondary guy. Darius Smith, long and rangy out there on outside linebacker. He's somebody to watch out for. I mean, Kirby's not scared to go play a freshman. You got Christian Miller on the defensive line. I mean, they're gonna get some pressure from the inside too. I mean, Jalen Carter on the interior. I mean, he's probably gonna line up at nose, but he could play any one of those defensive line spots. And projecting at the next level probably is a 3 technique. So I don't know. It's going to be that's going to be one of the biggest things in camp. Who's going to emerge as that other guy on the other side of Nolan Smith? So I think Bradley Beal probably has the inside track, but I mean, you never know.
Yeah,
Michael Williams. I mean, Chaz Chambliss is somebody as well that he comes in as an inside linebacker. There's just some options, and there's some creative things that they can do to kind of maybe scoot some of those, maybe go to a forefront some and have some of the bigger, rangier defensive linemen get in there and rush the passer. But I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing, and that's probably one of Will Muschamp and Glenn Schumann duo at defensive coordinator's biggest challenge.
I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit more about that, because when it comes to play calling, how is that even going to work for them? Have they determined, have they put it out in the public yet? I'm not as up to date on this, obviously, as you are. That, to me, is going to be the biggest question mark about Georgia's defense, more so than anything else. How do 2 defensive coordinators take over for one person and try to merge their minds into one unit?
Well, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have Will Muschamp in the booth, and you're going to have Glenn Schumann down on the field. It's kind of like the hype man. I think you're going to have Will Muschamp calling it, because he's a veteran play caller and he's been in that position before. So I think they're going to turn the play calling over to him, and Glenn Schumann will be kind of like the on the field spotter, relay guy, and just kind of the liaison. So. I think Glenn Schumann's going to have a really large hand in game planning, but I think when it comes to calling, it hasn't been officially put out there, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Will Muschamp. Okay,
I mean, that makes sense. And as far as I'm concerned, the offense, I mean, yes, they lose George Pickens, but they only had him for 4 games last year.
Not even. They barely. I mean.
He basically played the national title game. He basically played the national title game in the Michigan game.
He was used sparingly in the Michigan game at that, and he was barely used in the SEC title game. And I think they trotted him out there against Georgia Tech just for conditioning purposes. I think they played him like 1 series.
Yeah. So and so obviously, yes, heck of a receiver, heck of a player. You fantasy football players out there need to be snatching him up in the late rounds of your draft if you get a chance, because he is going to be just on fire for that team. Yeah,
giving that fantasy advice.
I'm sorry, he's one of my favorite sleepers on the year. Anyway, and plus I'm in the right location to talk Dawgs receivers. Speaking of receivers, though, you also lost Jermaine Burton. Your cousin, and he went to the enemy, and that's okay. He's allowed to make decisions like that for himself. You still got Ladd McConkey, you still got Adonai Mitchell, you still got Kieris Jackson. But I feel like, with the tight ends, I still feel like there's like a 4th receiver that's going to need to come in and at least make a couple key catches. And I'm not sure who that guy is, or if it's one of the freshmen who's coming in.
Yeah, I think, one of the freshmen you got to think. But, I mean, you have Marcus Roseby, Jack Saint, Aryan Smith, and Dominic Blaylock all coming off of injury. Blaylock probably is going to be the slowest to return. His injury was pretty pretty bad. It's been a year and a half, and he's still not quite right. And I don't think he ever will be. I'm looking forward to Aryan Smith. Aryan Smith is somebody that can play in the slot. He's somebody that can stretch the middle of the field, put some pressure on the free safety. And as a fourth option, there's not a lot of pressure on him. So to me, I'm looking most forward to Aryan Smith because Ladd McConkey he's shifty. He's your short guy. You're going to throw double moves to him and let him go. You have A.D. Mitchell, who's your obvious number one, your X, and is your best receiver. And then you have these other guys, Kyrus Jackson playing, intermediate routes, short routes, long routes. You can kind of do a little bit of everything. And then Ladd McConkey's your, basically our version of Hunter Renfrow. And then you have a fourth guy who could be one of those other guys I mentioned, but Aryan Smith, I think, is going to be the answer. He's the track guy. Yeah, he's got track speed. So
for sure.
To me, that's the one that stands out. I mean, he's done it before and he's made big plays before, but he just can't stay healthy.
No, that's been tough, and that's been tough. But you know what? I mean, if you've got faith anywhere, it's just got to be in playmakers at Georgia, and the tight ends can cover up for so much of it. The tight ends can just cover up for so much of it, and like the craziest thing to me is that we haven't even scratched the surface with Darnell Washington.
No, we haven't. We haven't.
It's
really
not even close.
Yeah.
And I, as an outsider looking in, seeing him out of high school, like they called him LeBron James in football for a reason. Like you look at his body, you look at his athleticism, and it's a little bit, I don't want to say jarring, but if you just look at first glance, when you put Darnell Washington out there against the rest of the tight ends, you should think that he should be dominating everyone. But no, it's Brock Bowers, who's sort of like, just at first glance, if you're walking in the room, you're going to think like, okay, he's like the average guy, right?
Yeah, but that dude is a superior athlete. I mean, you look at him next to Darnell Washington, everybody looks short against Darnell Washington.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
But he's like 6'5" himself. I mean, he's a big dude, but he looks tiny against.
I know, and I guess watching, like seeing them, like they were sort of like two tight ends on one side. Like one of these things is not like the other. And Darnell Washington, I want so much from him.
I want Mike White to recruit him for basketball and be a dual sport guy. But Arik Gilbert, again, is somebody that also can play that fourth receiver. I mean, you could go three tight ends, split Arik Gilbert out.
Is he eligible? Is he officially eligible?
He's officially eligible. He is a full go.
Okay, you know what? Kudos to him because I know he had struggled academically at LSU, and I'm glad to hear that he has turned it around. I'm really happy.
He had some problems. He had some eligibility problems coming in last year, so I didn't play. But he's, ever since he kind of got it together, spring semester, he was academic player of the week on a couple of occasions. So he's really kind of found his groove, and if you watch him in the spring game, I mean, the dude is just, you can see why he was, you can see why he was a high 4-star coming out of high school.
Yeah, for
sure. Out of Norcross. I mean, it was a shock that he went to LSU to begin with, but again, if he can cut his weight down a little bit, but he looks like he came into G-Day at 265.
Mm-hmm.
If he cut that down a little bit, he can be more of a threat on the outside. So, I mean, you've got options. Yeah. And some of those options are listed at tight end, but like Brock Bowers and even Oscar Delp is like a lighter version of Brock Bowers.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're kind of the same dude.
Yeah.
And he made some plays in the spring game. So like you got a fourth option there as a freshman, as a true freshman.
It's not fair. It's really not fair. No,
not if you're looking at tight ends, but I'm excited about the running backs too. I mean, there's some.
I'm excited to see like Kendall Milton, more of Kendall Milton. I like him a lot.
I'm interested now. The biggest thing for me, Matt, is going to be with the running back positions. Who kind of falls into that James Cook role? Who falls into the Zeus role, and who falls into like the DeAndre Swift role? Like who's the all around guy? Who's the utility knife, the Swiss Army knife, like James Cook was, and who's like the hammer? And I think Dawan Edwards is a name to look for. I anticipate he's going to be kind of like that hammer, the closer. The guy that comes in fourth quarter and just rams it down the throat.
What about Branson Robinson?
Oh, that dude looks like. Yeah, that dude is getting some looks. So we'll see. He's just a freshman.
Do you want a hammer? You want a hammer? Because Branson Robinson can be a hammer.
He can be a hammer. We'll see what he does in camp. I'm excited to see kind of how that shakes out in the first scrimmage. But Dylan Edwards, man, good Lord. Like,
all right.
He's gotten it done at the college level. He's proven it at the college level. He's earned number 3 reps. There you go. So I'm excited about that, man. So defensively, linebackers, inside linebackers, Dumas Johnson is really kind of taking on that Nakobe Dean role. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he's going to be Nakobe Dean because that's very, very tough. Like Nakobe Dean had some big shoes to fill with Roquan Smith leaving. He filled them quite nicely, but I mean, he'll never be Roquan Smith, and that's okay. He doesn't have to be. Nakobe Dean is Nakobe Dean, which is plenty good enough. And the Philadelphia Eagles got a steal on that one. So if you do individual defensive players,
Coach, one guy I wanted to check in on was one of my favorite guys in the 2022 high school class, or 2021, I should say, Smail Mondon. What is going on with him? Is he going to be in the mix this year?
Yeah, he'll rotate. I mean, if you're in the 2 deep on defense, you'll rotate. He's at the money position, so you got Mike and Money. So he's kind of Money is an inside linebacker position, so he's kind of moved up a little bit to the money position. MJ Sherman, again, going back to outside linebackers, he's a name that's popping up too. As somebody that's going to be tough on the edge. So, I mean, there's options. It's kind of like the no-name position after Nolan Smith. It's kind of the okay, who are these guys and how are they going to unfold? So, that's something to look forward to. And then the DBs, I think, are going to be strong. You have Christopher Smith coming back. You have some guys that need to step up. I'm interested to see if Nyland Green can make that jump. He was a 4-star kid, freshman last year. Had some promise, but never really made it on the field. So I'm kind of interested to see what he can do. Tiki Smith is somebody who was injured all of last year, transferred from West Virginia. What is he going to do?
Yeah, I thought he was going to be the most impactful DB transfer in the country last year.
And he wasn't.
And he wasn't because of injury, but at the end of the day, it didn't really matter that much. Mm-hmm. But, now you get an extra season out of him, the Smith brothers back there. Right. One of the best safety pairings in the country. If Tiki is back to the same Tiki Smith we saw in 2020 at West Virginia when he was, I believe, a second-team All-American.
Yes, he was. Second-team All-American. Just needs to get healthy, honestly. Just needs to get healthy. So, the defense, I think you have some good leaders. You have I was about to say Jarrell. I was about to say Jarrell Casey. He's not on UGA's defense, but Jalen Carter and Christopher Smith, I think, are going to emerge as your 2 leaders on this defense. I think they're going to kind of keep that culture going, which is good. You have guys that you're going to start to see. You're going to have these big alpha leaders, like what Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis were. You're going to see something similar with Chris Smith and Jalen Carter, and then down the line, you'll some other guys will step up, this year, and not sure exactly who they are. I think Dumas Johnson is going to step up. Juwan Dumas Johnson is going to step up as an inside linebacker. I think he'll emerge as a leader, and they'll groom him for next year. To lead that linebacking core. So, man, I'm excited about camp news. I mean, again, day 1, so there's not a whole lot you can glean from it. It's just good to get these guys back out and working. But I can tell you this, the rest of the nation is screwed. Just go ahead and lock down Stetson Bennett for the Heisman. If you've seen his new fade haircut, his new nickname is Stetquavius.
Stetquavius? I can get behind this.
Stetquavius Bennett. So just look that up. And you'll thank me later. Stetquavius Bennett. He's got probably the tightest, sickest fade I've ever seen. So he's got all the swag in the world, man. He's finally QB1 and not looking over his shoulder. I hope that doesn't go to his head, but it probably shouldn't because he's lucky to be there. They do this thing for social media where they hold up, like the first day of kindergarten, first day of first grade. So first day of Dawgs camp, right? And it says year, who's your coach, some other things on there. But Stetson Bennett says he's in his 74th year at Georgia. So he's owning that he's been there for a while.
That's awesome.
So, he's he's got a ton of confidence, and a lot of people are worried about, well, maybe it was just luck and luck and luck. I mean, yeah, it was luck. I mean, you have to take, you have to take a little bit of luck. I mean, that's what it takes to win a national championship. But he's gonna be good, dude. I mean, the way he's comfortable in the pocket, the way he distributes the ball, he can move, he can run the RPO offense, he can pull the ball and run it. I mean, he can hurt you so many different ways, and people think he has this pop gun arm, and he doesn't.
No, he definitely doesn't.
And you know where it switched? You know where that switch flipped for him?
I was gonna say the Tennessee game.
Well, the Tennessee game, but it really, like, he kind of came into his own then, but people were still questioning him. When he finished that Orange Bowl game, I was like, okay, I'm never doubting him again. Like, because after the SEC championship, I know I came on right here and asked Israel the same question, and we talked about it on Illegal Motion for a fact. And I was like, man, we know what we got in Stetson. We're done. I'm done with him. All that stuff. And he goes out and wins a natty.
Yep, of course he does. Of course he does. Because
shut me the F up.
Well, you know what? At least you guys can have that, because you know who can't have it, and that's Vanderbilt fans. Because despite whatever Clark Lee says at SEC Media Days, they are not going to be at the top anytime soon.
So you're talking about you're not going to be celebrating many touchdowns. You're going to get a cushioned seat. So
I already spent the money on the cushioned seat. I'm not wasting my money anymore. I need, I'm getting older, Coach. I'm.
Well, you're getting lighter, so like you're in a lot better shape than me. Although I think I've dropped like 10 pounds since the start of camp. But
get it, bud.
What did the Commodores bring? Anything? Is Mike Wright anything to write home about? I mean, pun intended.
No. Okay. So there's a couple things I think about this group that are really intriguing. Mike Wright is now QB1. Like, we know he's QB1 from the jump. There's no more battle with Ken Seals. It is Mike Wright's show. And because of that, they've had an entire offseason to actually build an offense around his strengths. What are his strengths? He was the Georgia State champion in the 200 meters as a senior in high school. He can scoot. And he's not inaccurate on the move. He's not like super accurate, but he can make a throw on the move, and he can get to the edge fast. He's going to need that. The offensive line is porous. They lost Tyler Steen, their only real lineman worth his salt. We can dive into offensive lines later. That's like my thing. Yeah. But he was the only really good one. And, oh, guess what? Now he's the starting left tackle at Alabama. So transfer portal 101, folks. Yeah. I think this wide receiver group, like last year's group, is sneaky good. I really like Will Shepherd. I think that I think he has the best connection with Mike Wright. And I think that the two of them seem to be in sync, especially when he is scrambling. Shepherd and Wright, when he's outside of the pocket, have an uncommon connection, which, again, like I've said, that's
I like that description. Uncommon connection. Okay.
They do. Like, Shepherd just seems to know where he needs to be when Wright is scrambling. And so
it's almost like they share a brain.
Well, or something like that. It's just that they just have some sort of intrinsic feel to know, like, okay, where do I need to put myself if you're Shepherd, like in the alley where he can get the ball to? It doesn't always work, obviously. When you're throwing off balance on the run, it's not always going to work. But I have more faith in that connection than I do really in anything else. I think Raymond Davis is – I think he's the caliber of running back who could start at, I don't know, a third of the schools in the SEC. I think he's actually a at least league average running back. Behind him, no, not so much. But
also I don't think there's a ton of star power at the running back position in the conference this year. So I think he stands out as well for that. I mean, he's a talented guy, and if they can generate anything in the passing game, I think you have a chance. So Joey Lynch has a big task ahead of him with this offensive line. I mean, play calling wise, I mean, you can get yourself out of a lot of trouble with some play calling. I think if you can, design an offense that can be a little more like, I think Mike Leach is as gimmicky as he is, or as gimmicky as he seems. He does have a knack for understanding what he needs to do to make his team that usually has lesser talent viable and can win. Like James Franklin knew that. We had back-to-back winning seasons. Like he knew that he could just recruit a couple guys, and Will Shepherd could be that guy for them. Ramon Davis could be that guy for them. So like,
the guy that I am most interested to see at least progress this year, there's a true freshman that's going way, way under the radar. So if you want a deep sleeper, Coach, Jaden Mcgowan.
Deep sleeper. I like
Jaden Mcgowan. He is
a
jitterbug slot receiver, true freshman out of South Carolina.
Okay.
And he has been making guys mitts left and right. Vandy's already had, I think, six or seven practices so far. They started real early. And so, because they have a week 0 game.
Yeah.
And so
the bowl game in Hawaii, you guys are 7-point favorites in that one.
I know. We shouldn't be, but I don't know. Actually, no. It's the time of year where every fan base feels more confident, and I actually do feel more confident today than I did, even 2 weeks ago going into it. But I think that the offensive line is clearly going to be what holds them back. I think that, and then on the defensive side of the ball, I'm worried about the defensive backs. They just don't have the speed. I think the linebackers are solid. I actually think the linebackers are I
think Orgy's going to be a dude.
I don't think he's going to be. I think he already is a dude.
I mean, he's going to be even more of a dude. Like,
I think so too.
He's going to be a dude on the national scale.
I mean, the last time they had someone like that, I mean, he's not going to be Zach Cunningham. Like, I don't think anyone's going to be Zach Cunningham for a while.
But
I mean, he was the last defender Vanderbilt had at the national level.
I mean, he's gonna be making all the plays for Vanderbilt. I mean, he has all the tools that he can be the guy and somebody that can really make some noise around the conference.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, he's somebody you definitely have to game plan for. But if you can pass protect, you could probably get a few deep on these DBs. And Stetquavius Bennett can certainly sling that rock. So
for sure.
So they get a linebacker transfer from Clemson. So it looks like they're at least bolstering that position.
Well, here's the thing. He's right now not even in line to start. Through the first 6 practices, he's running with the twos. It's Anthony Orgy and Ethan Barr as sort of their 2 middle backers, and like the anchor position, you were just their star positions when CJ Taylor. A lot of people thought Kane Patterson was going to come in, usurp Ethan Barr from last year, but I think that really lit a fire under the butt of Ethan Barr, and he has been an absolute rock star. All the reports coming out of camp, got to give a shout out to my guy Chris Lee over at VandySports.com, because he is always on top of it. And he's a really good guy to help he helps keep me informed. I've gone on his podcast, he's been on mine, and he does a really good job bringing these camp reports out. And one of the things he's been preaching is that like Barr just like took his game to another level, man. And that's been really good for that linebacking unit. I think that I was a little bit surprised that Davion Davis didn't test the transfer portal. He was their best defensive lineman last season. We saw what happened with their best offensive lineman. Steen goes to Alabama. Now he's playing for, a big time contender. I thought Davis was going to test the portal. He's a guy who is a disruptor on the interior of the defensive line. He was far and away their best player last season on the defense, alongside Orgy. And I was shocked that he came back to Nashville, quite frankly, and that's been a boon for the team. They've had a Malik Langham really step up next to him to be a true like number 2 guy, like right next to him. But their edge rush really struggled last year. It really, really struggled last year, and they need to get something out of it. And right now, it looks like Miles Capers is the guy that is going to be is going to be the main pass rusher. But he's flashed at times, but he's never been able to put anything together, that we've seen so far. But again, he's really, really young, and he's kind of taking over from Michael Owusu, who's still on the team as an older guy. But, that's a really interesting, spot to watch on the defense, I think. And it's really going to be telling who's going to be really lining up in those. When Vanderbilt, the rare occasion that Vanderbilt gets an opponent in 3rd and long, is someone going to be able to get out there, rush the passer, and actually convert and get the quarterback to the ground?
We'll see. I mean, year 2, there's always some surprises. There's always some things that happen between the guys that are there, the guys that chose to stay. I mean, for Davis to choose to stay, that should tell you a little bit something about that culture and how it's improving a little bit, and how things are starting to kind of, I don't want to say click just yet, but you're starting to see that movement in the right direction. So we'll see if Vandy can do it. I think Clark Lee needs to program some emotions in there. But last thing before we jump into your favorite topic, that's the Hogs, the heavy bellies. Is this new Vandy logo, is it growing on you, or is it still bad?
No, it's trash. It's absolute trash. Like
Star V. I don't know why they got rid of the Star V.
Like literally, what there's like one icon like that you associate with Vanderbilt. It's a Star V. Throw it out the window. No, let's take the Villanova logo, but take the History Channel paint job and put it on the Villanova logo, and that's what we're gonna do.
Oh, the History Channel paint job. I mean that. Oh God, that's bad.
What? That's the best way I can describe. That's a great description. That sums up just how bad it actually is.
Yeah.
This is after they just had spent $330 million on brand new facilities that had all been painted with the Star V.
Now they got to redo it. Dumb. All right, let's get into offensive linemen. Shall we?
Please.
So SEC offensive linemen. You and I have been talking. You wrote an article on MikeFarrellSports.com about these offensive linemen.
I love them. I absolutely I love the Hogs. I love the Hogs so much.
Coach, you told me you had some takes. You had some hot takes, some cold takes, and everything in between. So, right. Hot take number one?
Give me a team and I'll give you a take.
Okay, hot take number one. Okay, can Arkansas muster up an offensive line to create enough of an attack to help KJ Jefferson vault into the upper echelon of quarterbacks in this conference?
The linchpin on that is Devin Manuel. Devin Manuel is a 6'9", 366-pound redshirt freshman. But the boy can move. Ooh. He's got shades of Mekhi Becton in him. Oh. But he's super raw technically. You see him, you see some of the stuff he does in the weight room. You see the way that he moves. He's got the body mechanics, but he doesn't have the technical ability. Has been playing football a long time. But if he can really tap into that potential after being on campus for a full year, you pair him with Dalton Wagner and you have some absolutely nasty bookend tackles. That happens. I love this unit as always. I mean, Ricky Stromberg, one of the best centers in the game. I could go on and on. Arkansas is year in and year out one of the best offensive lines to watch, just as someone who appreciates line play, just as someone who appreciates, not just the individual pieces, but how they work together as a unit. Yeah. It hasn't even mattered whether it's been the Bielema era, well, not so much obviously in the Morris era, but
nothing went well in the Morris.
but now back in the Pittman era, they communicate so well along the offensive line, and that's why they're able to hold up at the line of scrimmage. Now, it's a completely different story at the skill position with them. Treylon Burks is the outlier. It hadn't been really since the Darren McFadden days that they had true playmakers at either the running back or the wide receiver position until Treylon Smith. I'm sure someone will come in and tell me that I'm wrong, but you get what I'm talking to, right? It's always been about that offensive line play, and that's what's been able to even keep them in games with teams that are way more talented everywhere else. So yes, I actually think if Devin Williams can be that guy, that is, they can be, if they're that good, They're the second best team in the West.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that is very, very promising.
I love the Hogs. I absolutely love the Hogs.
The West is going to be interesting. Now, Tank Bigsby comes back to Auburn.
Mm-hmm, he does.
I don't know why. Does their lack of recruiting at that position, does it bite them in the ass even more than it has already?
At running back?
No, at offensive line. We're talking offensive line.
Okay, well, you started to Tank Bigsby, and you.
Yeah, I was kind of leading into that. I kind of I left out a few words there. But does Tank Bigsby, is he making a mistake coming back, running behind a poor offensive line? Are they a poor offensive line?
I think they are mediocre, but I don't think they're poor.
Gotcha.
They have their interior three are adequate. Okay. I think Nick Brahms is a above average SEC starter. Okay. At center. I think he's probably the fifth or sixth best center in the SEC. Okay. Council and Jones are okay at guard, but their tackles aren't great, and everybody knows that. Killian Zaire is. I think he was way out of his league last year. He had 4 starts and he just got abused. And he's got to have taken some giant steps forward this offseason if at left tackle, if they're going to do anything to protect. Well, I guess not TJ Finley anymore.
Yeah. They eluded an officer on a scooter. Never a good idea. Just ask any former Georgia player about eluding people on scooters. It's not good. So let's see. We live in Vol country.
We do.
And I don't care that we live in Nashville. Nashville technically should be Commodore country, but it's not. It's still Vol country. What if a Vol fan stumbles upon this show and they make it this far? Do they have? Is their offensive line going to be difference makers this year? I think that was like the final piece that they needed a year ago to make their offense even more like next level explosive.
Darnell Wright is really good. Darnell Wright's a really good left tackle. I didn't want to admit it, but Darnell Wright's a good left tackle.
That is spot on. I love that.
And he proved to me last year that I think a lot of the reason why Hendon Hooker was able to I felt like he always had the extra half second in the pocket, and I felt like that's because you could put him out on pretty much any pass rusher, and he was gonna stalemate them 95 to 98% of the time. He was awesome, and so
he's good. He's great feet, good hand leverage, good just good awareness of his body, and just kind of getting in between that. And yeah.
The other guy on that unit that impresses me is Jerome Carvin. What impresses me though is his versatility. He's just it's so cliche, and I hate using this cliche, but coach, he's just a football player, man. It doesn't matter where you put him out there on the offensive line. He's just a football player, man.
That boy just plays some ball, man.
No, it's literally just what he does. I feel like I can line him up anywhere. If I'm coaching the offensive line, I'm probably putting him at guard, assuming Cooper Mays is, good to go at center, and he can live up to the hype. Cooper Mays lives up to the hype. He was a top 100 recruit coming out of high school. You've already got Wright and Carvin in there. They brought in Mincy to sort of fortify, be a swing tackle. It brought him out of the portal, and they can definitely be good enough. They can definitely be good enough.
Josh Heupel is showing that he can build a program. He's proving a lot of doubters wrong. I know Tennessee fans were pissed when they landed on Josh Heupel because they felt like they settled and, we got the guy from UCF. No, that's the best hire you could have made, and it's showing. That guy's legit.
I mean, they've completely won me over.
Yeah, he's won me over. I hate.
Heupel as a coach has won me over. The program will never win me over.
Yeah,
Heupel as a coach has won me over.
I hate it because he's wearing orange. I hate it. He's Tennessee. I hate it, but I cannot root for him.
Okay. I have to get the hottest take off my chest though right now.
Okay, do it. Do it.
Who's everyone's favorite darling in the East this year, Coach?
Oh, Georgia.
No. Who's everyone's darling to be the to be the dark horse?
Kentucky.
No.
Florida.
No.
In the
South
East?
Carolina. South Carolina.
In the
South
East?
Carolina. South Carolina. Everyone's talking South Carolina. Oh, we have Spencer Rattler. Oh, Shane Beamer.
They're not a darling.
Yes, they are. They're a darling. People. I've been hearing way too many people talk about them being, being a dark horse. You know what? Their offensive line is the worst in the conference. The worst.
It's not a hot take.
It's garbage. It's worse than Vanderbilt.
It's not a hot take, though.
Okay,
that's a pretty spot on take.
Accurate.
It's accurate. I mean, I wouldn't consider that a hot take.
It is absolute hot garbage. Okay, here's my other. Here's my other hot take on offensive line. LSU just as bad.
That might be a little bit of a hot take. I don't know. If they're LSU, like they just all of a sudden you're like they're trash, and then all of a sudden they're like not. It's just that's how they roll.
I guess. I mean, they're starting a true freshman at left tackle.
Yeah, that's just part of the unknown. Like, I mean, yeah, of course they could completely fall apart and be the worst offensive line. I'll tell you this: I have more faith in LSU than I do Vandy or South Carolina.
Yeah, that ain't saying much though. No,
but it's not the worst. But I'm just tired of the hot takes on Spencer Rattler. He's not the guy.
Okay, I mean, you're not going to get any argument from me there. If I'm a South Carolina fan, I'm more excited the fact that
I'm a South Carolina fan. We're probably pissed at you, but
if I'm a South Carolina fan, I'm more interested in the Oklahoma transfer Austin Stogner at tight end than I am at. No, that's just me just stirring the pot. And
if you're a South Carolina fan, my wife hates you.
Well, it's a good thing I'm not then.
She went to Clemson, in case you're wondering.
Okay, so here's my other, I guess, one other thing. Despite losing Charles Cross, Mississippi State might still have the second or third best line in the conference.
Yeah, that's a surprising deal because like you would think LSU they can recruit, but they're relying on too many freshmen. It's going to be a dicey situation.
And a bunch of transfers, and a new coach, and a new position coach, and a new scheme, and a new system. There are just so many question marks for LSU.
Yeah.
Whereas
high risk, high reward. But
Mississippi State, you're returning 4 or 5 starters. You're all SEC center, LaQuinton Sharp. You've got some awesome. We've got a couple really, really, really solid players. Quantrivius Johnson, Cameron Jones, who can play all across the line.
Would you say it's easy to recruit offensive linemen at Mississippi State because they have a certain type and super athletic guys, like defensive linemen that come over and develop?
I don't think it's necessarily easy to recruit. I think that it allows them to maximize the potential of the types of recruits that they can get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
I still don't think it's easy to recruit to Mississippi State. It's not, what? The other reason it's not easy to recruit to Mississippi State is what are they doing 90% of the time on that offense? They're passing the ball. Mm-hmm. If you're an offensive lineman, what do you like to do? You like to run block. You don't like pass blocking. Pass blocking isn't fun. What's fun? Going downhill and getting to get someone on the second level and clear them out. It's not fun to drop back in pass pro and be responsible one-on-one for an edge rusher in the SEC 60 times a game.
Yeah, that's not fun.
So if I'm an elite tackle prospect, that might be interesting to think, okay, if I'm like the greatest pass protector in the world, I'm gonna go out there. Yeah, I'll prove this. I'll be out here like Charles Cross can do that. So,
I mean, it raises your draft capital. I mean, you can always develop a run blocker. I mean, it's just it's just a mentality.
He did the same thing at Washington State. They had a bunch of really good, really athletic tackles. Kellen Deaches and the like come through and be. Or not Kellen Deach. Kellen Deach was Arizona State, but who am I thinking of? Play for the Eagles. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Yeah, I know. I can see the player. I can see him in a Washington State jersey. I just can't picture it. Mm-hmm. I just can't see the nameplate. So it's not Gardner Minshew. I can tell you that.
Can we talk about Georgia's line really quick though?
Yes, that's how I wanted to wrap this offensive line conversation up.
Let's do it.
Let's jump into Georgia's O line. I'll tell you who the starting or as of right now. This is the guys getting first team reps. Left tackle
Broderick Jones, obviously.
Broderick Jones, left tackle. Devin Willock, left guard. Cedric Van Pran at center.
Of course.
WWE's own Tate Ratledge.
Yep, right guard.
If he's not on WWE, he should be. And then right tackle's Warren McClendon.
Interesting.
The second team is Ernest Green Jr., freshman. At left guard, Xavier Truss, center Warren Erickson, right guard Dylan Fairchild, and right tackle Amarius Mims.
One of the things that I wasn't sure about is Amarius Mims one of the 5 best offensive linemen, regardless of position? And if so, can they get him in at guard?
I think they're working on that. I think he's solidified enough of a spot at right tackle, so if he gets some tackle reps, he definitely goes in. But I think on the side, he's trying to I bet he's trying to learn guard. They want him to play guard. They would love for him to play left guard next to Broderick Jones.
Yes, that's
and
what
just create a superstar side of the line. And I would love to see that. But, I mean, can he handle it? I don't know. Like, can he handle learning 2 spots like that? I mean, it's, cross-training on the offensive line can either be pretty simple or nearly impossible.
Take it from someone who just watched his line cross-train for 4 years and get worse every year. I'm not necessarily all for it. 1 or 2 guys, fine. You do have your entire line cross-training. It's a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a Joe Rudolph special right there. But he's gone. He's gone, isn't he?
Yeah, Bob Bostad is back. The baddest man in the business at the offensive line. Wisconsin offensive line, my friends, is back. They are going to be back to absolutely manhandling people this year. It is going to be so much fun. Jack Nelson is a psychopath at left tackle, and he just the way he talks and the way he talks about football reminds me of Deacon Jones. We talked about he just wanted to put the opponents in a bag and beat them. Like, that's how Jack Nelson talks about football, and it gets me so excited.
Yeah, I love it. But going back to Georgia's offensive line, Cedric Van Pran, probably one of the best center prospects in the country.
Yeah,
love him. Just he has command of the offense. He's a great communicator. He's been a rock solid center for Georgia all of last year. Was a representative at media days. Broderick Jones, just a superior athlete at left tackle. It's exactly what you want.
Huge upside. Huge upside. Got a good bit of time last year when they were shuffling Jamar Sawyer around with injuries to the interior guys. And Tate Ratledge coming back, that's a breath of fresh air that helps us there at right guard. And I'm interested to see. I mean, there's quite a battle. I'm not so sure that Amarius Mims can't beat out Warren McClendon at right tackle. I think McClendon probably has a better grasp of the offense, and that's probably why he's there. But, Amarius Mims athletically should be able to beat him out there. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, Broderick Jones, it's interesting to me, ceiling wise, out of all the tackles in the SEC, like I'm talking like peak, like NFL ceiling, I think he might have I would say he has the second highest NFL ceiling of any tackle in the conference.
Yeah, he does, and he's just got to take it to that level now. He's got to go out there.
Well, who's number 1 for you then? I said he's number 2 because I think number 1 is J.C. Latham at Alabama. I think J.C. Latham is he has the potential to be like the Michael Jordan of left tackles tackles in general.
I mean that's pretty easy. J.C. Latham is number 1. I mean,
he is one of the single most athletic men for that size that I have seen, and I'm not Mike Farrell. I work with him. I'm not Mike. I haven't seen as much tape as he has, but my God, I mean, just the way that he moves, how he moves. He's originally from the state of Wisconsin. Of course, he had to go down to IMG and go to Alabama. He should have stayed home, gone to the University of Wisconsin. It's been starting there, but that's just me being biased. But, I think this Georgia line is going to be really good again. I like watching the way Georgia has played over the last couple of years, really since Kirby got there and since when he brought Sam Pittman in to really sort of establish that line.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, the recruiting that Sam Pittman left the Dawgs with is I mean, it's why they're in this position right now. It's why they're not freaking out having to replace a couple of starters. And go back to your question, who else is in the mix at the tackle position conference wise is like, or even country, even nationwide. I mean, you got to throw Darnell Wright into the mix too. I mean, I think I think he has something to say about that position. I mean, God Almighty, dude's just a behemoth. I'm just athletic. Him and Broderick Jones, J.C. Latham, they're all going to be great pro prospects.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's those three guys. It's those three guys, and then nationwide there are. I think some of the other guys you could throw in there in the country, if Jackson Kirkland is back to 100% at Washington, I think he could be coming into last year. A lot of people thought of him as a first-round prospect. He had a lot of nagging injuries last year, never played up to snuff. He's back for a senior season. If he's back to health, he could move his way back into that first-round conversation, I think. You look in Evanston at Northwestern, and Peter Skorowski is an absolute technician. Paris Johnson, Ohio State. I mentioned, it's too early to tell for Jack Nelson at Wisconsin at left tackle, but I think he could be a really, really special player. He's really athletic, 6'7". He's quote unquote light. He's only 313. But I think that he has the chance to be someone really good. I mean, he was a top 100 recruit coming out of high school. And, there's, we've talked about, the Big Ten. I think that I was looking at some of the conferences out West more recently. I think that the state of offensive line play in general is, typically higher in the SEC and Big Ten. And I think that's even more so this year. I think the Big 12 right now is really, really down on offensive line play. I think that I think that Baylor is really good and everyone else in the Big 12 is kind of like mediocre to poor.
Yeah.
So Connor Galvin at Baylor, he's probably the other guy that I would, and Cooper Beebe at Kansas State. Those two guys.
Baylor's one of those programs that just, Dave Aranda's doing a tremendous job over there. I just gotta say, he's one of the best. He's one of the best. If I had to hire an under 50 coach to run a program, he's probably in the top 10 picks. He's not, Kirby's obviously going to be up there number one, the guy's under 50, but if you're looking for someone like that, he is going to be way, way up there because gosh darn it, he is a hell of a coach. And I'm the guy who thought he wasn't going to be a good head coach. I thought he was the elite level defensive coordinator who couldn't be a head coach. He didn't have the personality for it. I said it a million times and I was absolutely dead wrong. He inspires those guys. And I think a lot of it also, Matt, is because the systems he has in place create opportunities for guys to thrive. They're not worrying about logistic stuff. They're not worried. So he's got things in place to allow those guys to coach and allow those guys to do their thing and play fast.
So pardon me while I trip over this name I'm about to drop, but I was talking with Treston Ebner last year, and who was one of their tailbacks.
Yeah, and you definitely dropped that from a 2-story building.
He coming into the year, he was the number one guy, and then Abram Smith during the year took over the number one spot. And Treston said it did not matter one bit to him, and that told me more about Dave Aranda than anything else that we've seen on the field.
Yeah. Okay, that's good insight.
Yeah. So, the history of the Baylor program, still trying to scrub the stain of the Art Briles years off of them, but Dave Aranda is a pretty good person to do that. So
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. So, well, Matt, as we wrap this puppy up, man, we're you can find you pretty much all over the place, man. You're
on the internet,
like you are on both ends of the internet.
Yes, sir.
You're in every corner, every nook and cranny. And you're doing a hell of a job with all of it, with Bleav in Badgers. the Badgers TV thing with Clint Cosgrove. You're doing the MikeFarrellSports.com stuff. You're doing Illegal Motion. Bleav in Vandy, which if there's any show out there that can make Vanderbilt football interesting, it's you and Ryan Seymour.
Yeah, man, listen, we had to take a real long hiatus after last season for a couple reasons. We will be back this fall. Me and Ryan chop it up year 3 for us. Yeah. And, we'll always be bringing you the I think it has to be the lighter side of Vanderbilt football. It's basically us and then a lot of Bruno Reagan whenever we can have him on the show. So
if you haven't got a chance to listen to those three, Bruno's outstanding. But I got to say this before we get out of here. On SEC After Dark, we put together a list of and I'll tell you the rules here in just a second. But we put together a list of the top 5 all-time wide receivers in the conference. Now we put some rules on it to make this conversation interesting, to make it to where it was not just a who's who of Alabama and LSU receivers. Mm-hmm. So the rules were you were only allowed one finalist nominee from each school. So we narrowed down the finalists from every school, all 14 schools, and we took the top 5. Then we took the top 5 out of that list.
Okay.
Jordan Matthews was number 1.
Yeah.
He leads the SEC in all-time receptions by 30 catches.
Yep.
He's second in yards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Vanderbilt didn't score a whole lot of touchdowns in his time. Or if they did, they didn't score a whole lot of touchdowns with wide receivers. That was more of a scheme thing than anything. So, but man, like we look back at, and I even watched some of his highlights again just to kind of see like what
he was a beast, man.
He was a dude, man. So our list was Jordan Matthews 1, Julio Jones 2, AJ Green 3, Jamar Chase 4, AJ Brown 5. It was a controversial list, but if you don't really know the rules, the list isn't going to make much sense.
Can you repeat that for me one more time? Jordan Matthews 1, Julio Jones 2, AJ Green 3,
Jamar Chase 4, AJ Brown 5.
I might challenge you with a Mike Evans.
Yeah, we decided that Mike Evans, if he'd had one more good season,
he
would have made the list for sure.
Percy Harvin.
We didn't feel like he was better than Reed Anthony, so he didn't represent Florida. We thought Reed Anthony was a better fit for this list than Percy Harvin.
Interesting. Okay, I don't really disagree with you. I see. I don't agree that Julio Jones is the best Alabama wide receiver.
Okay. Who's your nom?
I just don't.
Who do you think it is? Is it
Devontae Smith? Yes, it's Devontae Smith.
Yeah, I mean
Devontae Smith.
It was just kind of a I think what separated it was just the impact that Julio had on defenses, and he didn't have the other guys around him that Devontae Smith had around him. Mm-hmm. And that was like, when you looked at it, it was like a razor's edge of things. Like, I mean, Julio won a national championship. He did all this stuff in 3 years. Probably if he came back for a 4th year, he may have won the Heisman. But Devontae Smith had more guys around him. Devontae Smith
also meant that he had to share the touches
more. But I don't know. Like it was an Alabama fan. Even our Bama guy, Jake Thomas was the leading guy for Julio Jones. So,
I mean, I completely understand it. I think that in his day, like Julio Jones was such a physical freak in Marvel. Mm-hmm. Even at the college level, and the fact that he and AJ Green came in the same year to the same that is so unusual for those two to be so tied together. They were 1 and 2 coming out of high school. They both had 3 years in the SEC. Were both, according to you guys, best receivers in the history of their program. And I always thought that was sort of a fascinating sort of comparison. And also, what would have happened if those two guys flip schools? What happens if AJ Green goes to Alabama and Julio goes to Georgia?
I don't think much happens.
You don't think much changes?
No, I don't. I don't. I think they have the same impact. I mean, Georgia didn't have much around AJ Green, and Georgia's defenses were atrocious anyway. So it's not like they were going to win. They were going to win that many more games. I mean, AJ Green helped Aaron Murray put up numbers and put up records.
Yeah,
I think Julio would have done the same thing. I think if they switch places in Julio and there's no 4-game suspension, for what's completely legal now.
Yeah.
I think some of your numbers would be even better with AJ Green, but nonetheless, the overall, the totality of the impact they had on the game, we just felt like Julio Jones was a step above. He kind of got everything started at Alabama. He was kind of the one that started all of that. Started the run on receivers. He made it okay for Nick Saban to recruit receivers, because I think he was kind of allergic to that early on. So he made it okay to run spread offense.
That's true. No, that is very true. And he did sort of signal a switch from just being pure, like literally 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Like that's what it looked like they were doing.
Yeah.
And then it showed that they can actually have a vertical passing game. So
yeah, and I think philosophy wise, I think if Sarkisian was the coordinator, if 2020 Sarkisian was the coordinator for the 2009 Bama team, I think Julio wins the Heisman.
Interesting.
I think Julio wins the Heisman and not Mark Ingram.
Yeah, I can see that.
It was scheme. It was a scheme thing. Kind of like Jordan Matthews, how he didn't have more touchdowns. Like it was just a scheme thing. Like they were gonna pound it, then throw it out to Julio. Now it's Najee Harris probably would have been a shoe-in for the Heisman in 2009.
I mean, listen, if Mark Ingram can win the Heisman, anyone can win the Heisman.
I mean, Najee Harris is,
no disrespect to Mark Ingram. Like,
right.
Apparently, like world-class good guy too, from what I've heard.
Great guy. Good running back.
Good running back too. But I mean, come on, you look at him and then you look at Derrick Henry, the other Alabama running back to win the Heisman recently, and like apples and oranges, my friends.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Derrick Henry, you're not feeding the rock, then I mean, I understand that one. Completely. That one I get. So, okay, Matt. Well, I know I just shouted out like every one of your podcasts, and that probably took about 30 minutes. So, social media, where all can we find you and your work?
Me personally on Twitter @_Perko_. We're over at MikeFarrellSports.com, @MFarrellSports on Twitter. That's Mike. You can find all of our stuff over there. We're publishing about typical days, 5-7 articles a day on weekdays. Lots of stuff, lots of good lists, good debates. So come on over to MikeFarrellSports.com. Lots of recruiting stuff going on right now as well. Every day that we've got impact recruitments, there's a nightly recruiting roundup. We've got recruiting breakdowns from some guys who really chop up the film well. So definitely be checking out MikeFarrellSports.com. Badger Blitz TV on YouTube, part of BadgerBlitz.com, part of the Rivals.com network. Me and my man Clint Cosgrove talking about recruiting once a week, breaking down some film and having a great time over on YouTube. We've got Bleav in Badgers podcast, me and Bernie back in the saddle, camp starting. We got Joe Thomas coming on later this month. That's going to be really fun.
I can't wait for that one.
Yeah, that one's going to be that one's going to be pretty epic. I'm very.
You got to keep your composure, Matt. Okay, keep your.
Well, okay, it won't be that hard because I've met Joe before. So
you have met Joe before.
I've had dinner with Joe before when I was in college. Actually, long story. You'll have to listen to the podcast in order to hear about it, because he definitely does not remember it at all. It was on a recruiting visit. But Bleav in Vandy will be back. And then next week, the triumphant return, season 8 of Illegal Motion, Coach, you and me. And the man Josh Cook, who finally cut off all of his hair, thank God.
Hopefully he didn't lose his edge, though.
Well, I think the hair is, I think the hair is going to give him more of an edge now.
It's going to give him a harder edge.
Exactly. There you go.
Got them tight edges.
High and tight,
baby. Here we go. He donated his hair, so we'll. I can't wait to get back to IM, man. That's such a fun show. It's obviously my longest running podcast than this one, which is into its 3rd season.
Yes, sir.
So, but yeah, as always, if you want to find us, you can scroll it right down there below. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Find us on TikTok, actually, at TroopStar28 on Twitter and IG. You can find me at Coach Corey Burton on IG. Subscribe, comment, leave us that 5-star rating. Give us a little feedback. Tell us we're doing a good job. Old F Per was he was very complimentary.
He loves a good comment.
He loves a good comment. He's such a nice commenter. I love it. So find us anywhere you find your podcast. But for Matt Perkins, I am Corey Burton. This is the Bleav in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Bleav Network, coming at you on the video side, Brinks.tv. Until next time, go Dawgs.
Go Dawgs.
This is Bleav in Georgia Dawgs podcast on the Bleav Podcast Network.